Give her a stage, and Barbara Mandrell will put on quite a show. After 40 years in the spotlight, she remains one of America's most talented performers, and the heart of her success can be attributed to one thing: family.
Everything I've done, everything I've been able to do, my husband, my children, my sisters, my parents, my family, it's all a part of it. That's who I am, you know.
Barbara Mandrell was born in Houston, Texas on Christmas Day in 1948. The oldest daughter of Irby, a policeman, and Mary, a music teacher. Barbara gave her first public performance when she was just 5 years old.
Mother had taught me to play the accordion, and evidently I decided that I would play in church one Sunday.
Before I knew it, she was up there playing gospel boogie, and she did a great job.
And people enjoyed it, so they applauded like they would a concert. And she played it over again, you know.
With her parents' love and encouragement, Barbara and her two younger sisters, Louise and Earlene, grew up with strong self-confidence and boundless dreams.
I grew up not knowing that there was anything but having a close family.
My parents always made us feel as if we were special and there was nothing we couldn't achieve if we believed.
I've always taught my girls you can do anything you want to, but you first got to qualify yourself.
We just knew there was nothing we couldn't do, because Mom and Dad instilled that in us.
By 1956, the Mandrells had moved to Southern California, where Irby sold music supplies. Soon after, Irby and Mary discovered 9-year-old Barbara's gift for music.
She took a liking to the steel guitar, and so I bought her a steel guitar.
She'd sit down and she'd play it. You know, she just got it so easy she didn't have to work at it.
You know, about the minimum a day that I would play would be about 4 hours to 6 hours. I mean, I loved it. I really loved it.
In the summer of 1960, when she was just 11 years old, Barbara's natural musical aptitude was first put to the test in public.
I was working for a music manufacturing company at that time in California, and the trade show was at the old Palmer House Hotel in Chicago.
They wanted Barbara to play the steel and demonstrate the amplifier.
And a lot of musicians would come in and listen at her play because she had learned so much in such a short length of time. It was unbelievable.
The gimmick of an 11-year-old steel guitar player did wonders for Irby's amplifier sales. It also caught the ear of musician Joe Maphis, who was working in the next room.
He was known as King of the Strings, and he wanted to take her to Las Vegas with him to be on his show.
When the trade show ended, Irby and Mary escorted a very enthusiastic Barbara to Las Vegas. There, at the Showboat Hotel and Casino, Barbara made her professional debut, billed as the Sweetheart of Steel. When Barbara returned to California, she began performing on a local LA TV show called Town Hall Party, and later on NBC's 5-Star Jubilee.
We never really pushed Barbara. We never planned her career. Everything she did, it just opened up something else for her.
In December of 1961, Barbara was invited to join a touring show starring Johnny Cash. Playing alongside some of the top names in country music, she quickly became known not for her age, but for her musical skill. When the tour ended, 13-year-old Barbara continued to perform on Town Hall Party, adding the saxophone to her many talents. But when the show was canceled, she was suddenly left with no outlet for her music.
There was nothing else for me to do in Los Angeles, and my father felt, you know, that he just had to provide some means for me to be able to continue because I loved my music so much. And so my dad put a group together called the Mandrell Family Band, and he played rhythm guitar and sang and emceed it. My mother played bass. We hired a guitar player, and we hired a drummer.
Because Barbara was underage and could not play in nightclubs, the Mandrell Family Band performed exclusively at military bases. Determined to showcase his daughter's exceptional talent, Irby became the guiding force in Barbara's life and career.
When you walk out on stage, you got to own it. You got to turn yourself on the best you possibly can and give them everything you can possibly give them for their money.
She really respected her father, and he's a good mentor for her. He knew the business, he knew how music's supposed to be, and he knew about the work ethic and the practice and things, and he made her do it.
As Irby polished the act, 14-year-old Barbara began to develop a playful relationship with the band's 21-year-old drummer, Ken Dudney.
He would take we girls, Louise and Earlene and I, to the movies, and I just really have such a crush on him.
She's 14 years old, And I'm thinking, wow, it's a cute little girl, but I'm 21 years old.
And so when you're 14, I guess people think, that's puppy love. And he had his birthday, and he said, I think I need a birthday kiss.
I was always joking with her, well, when are you going to give me my birthday kiss?
And my heart was just, I hope he kisses me. I can't wait. And it didn't happen. I was so sad. So anyway, I baked him a birthday cake.
When I saw the cake, she'd put on it, Happy 22 TH.
And when I gave him the cake, he laughed, really laughed. I said, what? I mean, it's not a good-looking cake, but it's not that bad. And he says, Happy 22nd birthday. It's ND, 22nd, not TH.
I started laughing a little bit about it, and she got her feelings hurt.
I was so embarrassed, that I couldn't be grown up enough to know.
So I kept joking with her, when are you going to give me my birthday kiss? How about my birthday kiss? And she says, right now. And she just come flopped down on my lap and planted this kiss on me. And I'm going, whoa.
The senses were so explosive. I mean, that man can kiss.
By the time she was 16, Barbara had grown into a radiant teenager and was even crowned Miss Oceanside in a local beauty pageant. But music remained her first love, and she excelled at it like no other.
When she was 16 years old, she was probably rated one of the top 5 steel guitar players in the world. She was a genius, and I think she still doesn't understand how great she really was.
As Barbara and Ken's love blossomed, they secretly began to discuss a future together.
We didn't want people to know that we were going together, that we were in love.
We talked about the possibility of getting married sometime, in the future.
We knew we couldn't be engaged because, I was like a sophomore in high school, and my parents would never believe that I was going to graduate.
In October of 1965, Ken quit the band and moved to Florida, where he began training for a career as a naval officer. His absence marked a major turning point in their relationship.
Unbeknownst to me, he designed and had made a wedding and engagement ring for me.
She wanted to have them, so she could have them in her possession. I said, no, you cannot have these.
I wanted that engagement ring so badly. I really, really wanted it. Because we knew we were going to get married. I begged him, just let me keep the engagement ring. I'll keep it hidden.
Well, I won't wear them. I just want to have them. And so I went to the safe deposit box and I got them. And I gave them to her, then I left town for a long time.
And I kept it in my drawer. And I would sleep in it at night. And then I would put it away in the morning. Well, one morning, I just got lackadaisical about how I did it, I guess. And my mother found it.
Her mom found them and got a little upset about that, thinking she was going to get married and all that. But we weren't.
My mother and father, no matter what I'd say, they wouldn't believe me, that I would wait.
I didn't think that anything serious should happen, and we just kind of stepped between and said, hey, y'all put this off. Now's not the time.
They forbid Ken and I to talk to each other on the phone or write each other, nothing.
Miserable without Ken, Barbara began to focus completely on her music. In 1966, when she was 17, she recorded her first single, Queen for a Day, on an independent record label. Later that summer, the Mandrell family band traveled overseas to entertain U.S. troops in Vietnam.
There are no words. I mean, to be a civilian teenage girl, getting off a plane and absolutely being in a war zone, it's like walking into a movie. It's like it could not be real. And then pretty soon you learn it is.
Barbara returned from Vietnam with a new maturity and a big surprise. While she was gone, Queen for a Day had become a modest hit, but she was desperately missing Ken, whom she hadn't heard from in nearly a year. Then, in December of 1966, they were finally reunited.
My parents told me that Ken was coming back to the Christmas holidays and that he had written and called and asked permission if he could take me to church and, see me.
I came home on leave, and we saw each other again for the first time in 10 months. And I didn't know if she cared about me, and she didn't know if I cared about her.
And I just was so amazed that he still wanted me. He still remembered me.
She saw me, and she came running and just jumped into my arms, and I gave her a big hug and a kiss, and everything was okay.
It was a little uncomfortable because it had been a long time, but the kisses, it was still the same. Maybe it's fair to say even better.
On May 28th, 1967, 10 days before she graduated from high school, Barbara and Ken were married in a military wedding.
He got his Navy wings in May, then I clipped him in the same month.
I think there's lots of things to explain why couples stay together. We have a mutual respect.
There's never a day that we don't say at least once, I love you.
Religion is very, very important to us in our lives. Plus, we have great kids and great family together, and we enjoy the same things.
I see a beautiful sunset. Immediately, I say, Ken, look at that sunset. And it means so much more to me because we share. He's been there since the beginning. Any wonderful success that was given to me was given to us. He's a good catch, what can I say?
Coming up, from housewife to household name, Barbara's decade-long road to fame. Next, when Intimate Portrait continues. I'm Patty Duke. We now return to Barbara Mandrell, An Intimate Portrait. After a second tour of Vietnam, the Mandrell family band broke up. Barbara moved to Whidbey Island, Washington, where Ken had been transferred. There, in a tiny cabin beneath snow-covered mountains, she settled into her new life as the wife of a Navy pilot.
I had decided that I was going to quit the music business and be Ensign Kenneth L. Dudney's wife, and that's it. So at the ripe old age of 18, I quit.
I think she enjoyed that life. She enjoyed sending me off to work in the morning and having me come home at night.
After only 10 months together, the Navy sent Ken overseas for 9 months. Barbara went to stay with her family, who had moved to Tennessee. It was during a trip to the Grand Ole Opry that she realized how much she missed music.
We went to Nashville, and I remember sitting in the balcony at the old Ryman Auditorium and seeing the people perform.
She turned to me in about the middle of the show, said, Daddy, says, if you would manage me, I'd like to get back on the other side of the microphone.
So my dad said, quote, I'd bet my last penny on you. And he just almost did.
Irby helped Barbara put together a new show and booked her at the Black Poodle, a small Nashville club. In only a few short weeks, 20-year-old Barbara had caught the attention of some of Nashville's most prominent stars.
I got a call from Earl Travis. He said, Ralph, there's a young lady in town that I'd like to bring out to your television show. She's very pretty and she sings beautifully. And he did. She came out, sang her songs beautifully, and did a very professional job.
As the positive buzz continued, Barbara soon found herself courted by 7 different record labels. Signing with CBS Records, she hit the road for the first time in nearly a year. But touring became increasingly difficult for her.
She was touring with pickup bands, that's what they call it in the business, where it's not your band.
And I told my dad after 3 jobs, I said, Dad, if I can't get a band together, I can't do this.
Louise and Earlene had been studying their instruments.
Since we had started playing the drums and bass, then Barbara, wow, you girls are sounding pretty good.
So she started taking me. And after the first date, then she added Earlene on drums.
And I had Louise and Earlene and my dad and hired a guitar player. And off we went.
Calling themselves the Do-Rights, the new band traveled across the country in an old bus, playing small nightclubs and county fairs. Though touring was difficult work, keeping her family together made it worthwhile for Barbara.
I'm so thankful that Louise took up the bass and the fiddle, and so thankful that Earlene took up the drums, because we were together 24 hours a day.
Some of the best times in my life was the 3 of us getting to work together and the success that came from that.
So many beautiful memories because of family. I was able to do things, that I never could have done.
In 1969, at the age of 20, Barbara discovered that she was pregnant. But the happy news was cut short when she learned that the Navy was sending Ken away once again.
We really couldn't take the separation. It was so, so hard. And he got an opportunity for a year's early out, and he took it. And I'm so thankful because I was expecting our first child, and I needed him and wanted him. And the truth is, he gave up something very important to him for me.
Barbara Mandrell!
With her family behind her, Barbara quickly began making a name for herself. Despite her wholesome image, she sang candid songs about sex and infidelity, subjects typically reserved for men.
That call was from the office, and I guess I'll have to burn the midnight oil again.
The first #1 song she had was a song on Midnight Oil. Up until that time, I don't think any female had ever put out a song in the country field where it said that she was going to go out and cheat.
I watch him in the mirror as I lie to him. I don't know how late I'll be. While I'm putting on my makeup, I'm putting on the one that really loves me.
It was a cheating song from a female standpoint. As far as I know, that was the first one.
By the early 1970s, women had become a major force in the traditionally male-dominated world of country music. But when Barbara was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry in July of 1972, there were still obstacles to overcome.
The Opry is one of the things I'm most proud of. But I remember that when I was asked to become a member, I asked the question, what must one do to host a segment of the Opry, which is a half-hour portion? And I was told, you must have gained enough status and you must be a man. And then Dolly Parton headlining, Tammy Wynette headlining, Barbara Mandrell headlining. I mean, it didn't come easy, but it got to where the popularity and the status and the ticket sales, you could. That's major.
So pack your rusty razor.
I definitely think it is a lot easier for women these days in music, because I think it was really a man's world back in her era, and I think that for a woman to be so successful as she was, that was a big, big achievement.
By the time she was 27, Barbara's records were climbing the charts. With her 2 children, Matt and Jamie, in tow, she continued to tour, gathering new fans across the country. And at the center of her growing success were the 2 greatest influences in her life.
She would not have made it without my father and my grandfather. They were both her backbone. They still are.
My father was a tremendous businessman with wonderful common sense and tremendous judgment and wisdom. He ran a taut ship, and therefore, I was influenced by that.
I'm sleeping single in a double bed.
At the age of 30, Barbara's career had really taken off. Her song, Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, was a #1 hit, and she soon became known as one of country music's hardest-working performers.
I remember it was a slow process getting there, but all the way, it was a university for me. And I always competed with myself. Every year when I put a new show together, I wanted to be better than Barbara Mandrell was. My group, the Do-Rights, felt the same way. So it drove us hard, really hard.
The winner is Barbara Mandrell.
In 1979, Barbara was named Female Vocalist of the Year by the Country Music Association. The honor made her an instant celebrity and brought her to the attention of NBC, who approached her to star in her own musical variety series.
I really didn't want to do a weekly variety show, but I did it because it was my sisters and I. And that's a beautiful thing.
And the winner is, thank God for this little girl, Barbara Mandrell.
During the year-long negotiations with NBC, Barbara was once again recognized by the Country Music Association, this time as Entertainer of the Year. The day after the ceremony, Barbara boarded a plane for Hollywood, destined to win the hearts of America.
I really am the oldest of the Mandrell sisters. I'm 5 years older than Louise, and I'm 7 years older than Erlene. I'm 19, she's 14, and she's 12. 19!
Effectively mixing country, pop, dance, and comedy, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters debuted on NBC to enthusiastic reviews. The program became an instant hit, showcasing the 3 women's talents and catapulting Barbara to national stardom.
The average American public loved it because it was wholesome, it was fun. Barbara could dance, and she worked very hard on that show.
Golly, what have you got there?
It's our fan mail!
40 million people a week watched our show, average. I felt pretty secure that I was a name, but I had no idea. It was unbelievable what it did.
Barbara's career just skyrocketed when she was on TV because people could see her every week. They loved her, and her record sales went sky high.
The best of strangers.
If anything, it elevated her to huge heights. And it was pretty exciting, a lot of fun. Soon found out it was a tremendous amount of work.
You see, Louise and Erlene and I were not actors. We were those 3 people. So every word we spoke, everything we did, it had to be what felt right for us. So I began writing.
As Barbara took on more and more behind the scenes, the series began to affect both her family and her health.
I think that I was averaging of working 16 hours a day.
Mom would come home so tired, and she would just lay there and, watch TV with us or study whatever she had to study.
It took a whole lot of time. So anytime we did get to do anything as a family, it was real special to do.
There wasn't a lot of time to spend with her, but seeing her and seeing
what it brought her and the success. It was everything that she had worked for.
By Christmas of 1981, the strain of doing a weekly variety show had taken its toll. Suffering from extreme exhaustion and barely able to speak, Barbara began seeking professional medical help just to keep going.
When Barbara started getting sick, we knew it was serious.
I mean, I'd be like this. It was just... And I was almost every week that we had to do that show.
So she would take cortisone shots to relax that muscle so she could sing the songs.
And I was told by my throat specialist, talking is even worse than the singing on your throat, and you're nonstop.
He said, if you continue to do what you're doing now, it will be vocal suicide and you will do irreparable damage to your throat and your voice. You'll have no career.
So after 2 years, I had to quit the show.
The shame was we were very successful on the ratings at that point.
I loved everything about it, except I physically couldn't take it anymore.
Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters would be the last successful musical variety show on network television. Through the show's popularity, Barbara achieved what was then a nearly impossible goal, bringing country music to the masses.
I think that show did a lot for this business. There are a lot of pieces to this puzzle that make up the success story of country music. I think that was a major piece.
One of the things I'm most proud of is the extraordinary number of people that I somehow got to come over and listen to country music. Because I love country music. It's my life.
Coming up, at the height of her stardom, Barbara's life is turned upside down by a devastating accident. Next, when Intimate Portrait returns.
Want to stay one step ahead? Don't miss the next new ad.
Now return to Barbara Mandrell, An Intimate Portrait.
The winner is Barbara Mandrell.
In 1981, Barbara became the first artist to be named Country Music Association's Entertainer of the Year for 2 consecutive years.
And I love you so much for this. It's wonderful.
In 1982, she won 3 People's Choice Awards and would go on to win 6 more. At the age of 34, Barbara had become one of the most popular performers in America.
We could tell the differences of the concerts, the attendance. She was the hottest thing going.
The 9 People's Choice Awards, that's the Gallup polls. I don't think any of that would have happened for me had it not been for our television series.
In 1983, Barbara put a new act together for Las Vegas. Like her TV series, The Lady is a Champ show featured Broadway-style production numbers, elaborate sets and costumes, and Barbara's high-energy performance.
Barbara is one of the most exciting performers I've ever seen. In fact, I always admired how she could do so many things, move around the stage so much, and still manage to have breath enough to sing. She's extremely talented. She can just play anything, sing anything, do anything, and people just love her.
Barbara was living a charmed life. Her new show was a smash hit, her singles were consistently topping the charts, and her family was happy and healthy. Everything was perfect. But on September 11th, 1984, Barbara's life was turned upside down.
Mom had picked us up from school that day, and we went shopping for my great-grandma.
We were headed for home, and at a stoplight, we saw a tailgate down on a station wagon with little children playing in the back of it.
I said, Mommy, look how dangerous that is. Those kids could fall out.
God knew what was coming. And we saw this, and I told my children, I said, you know what? Let's put on our seatbelts, and then we know we'll be safe. In less than 20 minutes, headed for home, we were hit head on.
Mandrell and her 2 children were returning from a shopping trip when the accident occurred.
As though the driver of this other car veered across the center line and hit Miss Mandrell's Jaguar head on.
I remember seeing my mom hugging the steering wheel and moaning. And I remember thanking God that my mom was moaning because I thought she was dead.
Police continue to question the circumstances surrounding the accident, which killed 19-year-old Kevin White of
Mandrell
Lebanon.
was taken to Baptist Hospital, where late reports list her in serious condition.
Baptist Hospital
Her
officials say
children,
they're averaging 1 call a minute from fans all over the country.
We were taken to one hospital, and then she was transferred to a different hospital. She was so badly injured that they were all very much concerned with her well-being.
She's in pretty serious condition, but she really is the old saying, out of her head.
She was just out of it totally. She didn't know where she was. She was in the cardiac care unit, a totally separate little room, hooked up to all kinds of tubes and hoses.
I had broken ribs, broken toes, broken ankle. My ankle was broken in 5 places down in the center of the ankle. Most of all, I had a really serious head injury.
Because of the head injury, Barbara was constantly cussing like a sailor because she didn't know who she was or anyone else.
I was able to go in and see her, But I found out she didn't know who I was.
She saw me walk in the door, and she just threw me out of there real quick. Yeah, she was pretty crotchety.
She was screaming, and I could see her just losing it. And I didn't know at what point she would get to and not be able to bring her back. You know, it was just so scary.
Almost immediately, the word of Barbara's accident spread throughout the city.
We were devastated when we had heard that Barbara had the wreck. First of all, nobody really realized how severe that really was, not even me.
The people really were interested.
There was sacks and sacks and sacks of letters sent, flowers.
Some fans bought a giant billboard that was positioned so it could be seen from her hospital window.
You heard earlier this week about Barbara Mandrell being involved in a serious car accident.
Ken and I thought it over, and we decided to play it down just as little as possible. We just didn't want everybody to know how serious she was.
She'd been alert, talking to us and everything, doing therapy and the whole thing, but there was something that still wasn't right.
One time I was saying something about the kids really want you to know they're doing okay, and she's like, kids like my show, and we think that she thought that they had gotten killed.
I walked in, and she came and she said, come sit on the bed beside me. And I went and I sat on the bed. She never said my name.
She was alert, she would talk to you and everything, but there was an awakening. 14 days, there was an awakening.
After 2 weeks in the hospital, Barbara returned to her home, but her suffering had only just begun.
I had trouble just existing. I never contemplated suicide, but I didn't want to live. Every day was, tomorrow would be just like today with the pain, and it was never ending. And I just wanted to make her go away.
She would get adhesions in your legs. She would have a therapist come in every day, and she would have to bend that leg and break those adhesions every single day. It was tough, but she had to go through that therapy.
Though her body was slowly healing, Barbara's head trauma and nonstop pain resulted in a frightening change in her personality.
I would stay in my bedroom, and we had blackout drapes. I wanted them closed.
I would open the curtains, and she would yell and scream and throw things, and they were on an electric switch, and she'd flip that switch back and close those curtains.
Maybe I'd sleep for 3 or 4 minutes. Maybe I'd sleep for an hour because of the pain. So the TV was my company, but I didn't want any of the outside world, just my bedroom.
It would be dark and dungy and horrible in there. Nobody wanted to be in there with her.
I truly became a totally different person. I spoke of myself in the third person. I knew, no shadow of a doubt, there is no way I would ever perform music again. That was her, this is me, that kind of thing.
It was terrible, and she wasn't herself at all.
She lived every day in excruciating pain, which would make anybody just not want to be real nice to people.
I would be so angry over nothing and yell and scream.
1 minute she'd be just as sweet as she could be, and then turn around and jump down at you for nothing.
She was very rude to everyone, except me. And I will never forget, finally one day I touched her leg accidentally, and she yelled at me. And that was just kind of the final emotional straw for me. And I started crying hysterically.
You could never tell what was going to happen next. It was just, she was like a bomb, going off any second. But I was fine with that. I knew it was her head talking. I knew it wasn't her.
They suffered. They really suffered. It's a hard thing to talk about. Even after all these years, it's a hard thing. I've apologized to my children, to my husband, for the yelling and screaming and the way I acted. And I told him, I know you know that I was unaware. It wasn't really me. I know you know that, but I just want to tell you how sorry I am.
6 weeks after the accident, rumors were spreading that Barbara's condition was worse than anyone had thought.
She needed to make a public appearance to let everyone know that she was physically okay, because there was rumors that she was deformed. There was rumors, that she had scars on her face, and she was still as beautiful as she always had been.
I said, we need to stop that story, and the way to stop it is to let people see you.
The entire country has been concerned this past month about Barbara Mandrell.
They somehow managed to get her on the CMA Awards show from her house.
Barbara, we miss you very much. How are you feeling?
Oh, Kenny, thank you. I'm feeling much better. And I really appreciate this opportunity to tell everyone how deeply grateful I am for all the telegrams and the letters and the cards and for all your prayers.
I'd never seen this woman nervous in her life about anything. And she was nervous.
And you can be sure that I'll be back singing my heart out just as soon as I can. But tonight, I'm just another country music fan. And I'll be right here watching the show and rooting for everyone. God bless you all so much.
And I remember everything being happy in front of the camera. And as soon as the cameras were off, you know, it wasn't that way.
3 months after the accident, most of Barbara's broken bones had healed, but an excruciating pain in her tailbone continued nonstop.
My neurosurgeon said, I want you to go see your gynecologist.
Barbara and I are sitting in the doctor's office, and his nurse comes in, pokes her head in the door, and says, "It's positive." And Barbara's eyes got that big around, I mean huge, and she says, "It's positive, what does that mean?" And I looked at her and I kind of smiled and I said, "That means you're pregnant."
It was a great way to change scenery. Of all the things that had gone on, for that to happen, it just was something that none of us had expected.
And her body started healing quite a bit, and I'm sure the pregnancy helped.
It was the greatest therapy that ever happened for her, because she could get off feeling sorry for herself and her pain and her crutch and into another realm, taking care of a baby.
On September 6th, 1985, Barbara gave birth to Nathaniel Mandrell Dudney. His timely arrival brought the family together and marked the beginning of a wonderful new era in Barbara's life.
He really is a gift. And I remember on our 25th wedding anniversary, we had a ceremony, and I had each of our 3 children write a paragraph about their dad and I. And Nathan's, he was so little, but I had him dictate to me and I wrote it down. And it had to do with he was so thankful that his mama wore the seatbelt. Oh, this is hard. Because he never would have had a life. There never would have been. It's hard memories, but these are tears of joy because we made it through that.
Coming up, Barbara faces new fears and makes a triumphant comeback when Intimate Portrait returns. I'm Patty Duke. Now back to Barbara Mandrell, An Intimate Portrait. The birth of her son Nathan 1 year after her tragic car accident was a joyous event for Barbara and her family. But that same week, she was faced with a difficult decision that would affect both her career and her public persona.
I was out of work for 18 months. That's huge income to a family.
In order to recover from your own insurance company, in this particular case, we had to file suit against the people that cause damage or injury to you.
When we were told that we had to sue the estate of the young man that hit us, I just said, no, we're not doing this. And he said, you don't understand, it's by law, you have to do this. Well, this conversation went on and on and on. And anyway, when I was assured that in no shape, form, or fashion would we in any way take not 1 red cent, nothing, from these people, then that's what we did.
Barbara had 1 year from the date of the accident to file the lawsuit. But since many people were not familiar with the law, when news of the suit began to spread, Barbara was subjected to harsh criticism from both the press and the public.
It really hurt me a lot, and there were horrible hate letters and letters to the editor in the newspaper, and it was worded in such a way that Barbara Mandrell sues the mother and father of the young man that was killed.
We couldn't mention that we're trying to get to our own insurance. We couldn't say that because it would throw it out of court.
So I wasn't allowed to read the newspaper or the mail or that sort of thing until Ken first checked it.
She got so much hate mail, it was terrible. Terrible hate mail from Barbara. Why are you doing this to these people, etc.? They'll be poor the rest of their lives. They'll never be able to come out of the hole.
And one time I did pick up a letter, and it even had old ticket stubs from one of my concerts in it. It was really devastating to my career. And I have to admit, if the shoe were on the other foot, I would have felt the same way of someone I thought was a person I liked.
Though eventually settled, the controversial lawsuit was devastating to Barbara's self-confidence. And for the first time in her life, she was reluctant to perform.
I came back as a performer only because, everybody was trying to tell me that I should.
Minnie Pearl was instrumental in telling her, you got to get back out there and do this.
Minnie insisted. She said, I'm coming for lunch, and you're coming out of that bedroom. And so I did, and she really spoke to me.
She was scared to death. I think for some reason she was afraid she would never be as good as she was. And she always strived to be better and better and better.
I told her, I said, that's good. You don't want to perform anymore, that's fine. But you've got to perform one more time. You've got to know that you can perform. And I just kept on. Every time I'd see her, I'd go through that routine. And she finally agreed that she would perform one more time.
Barbara's first concert since the wreck was scheduled for February 28, 1986. The sold-out show was held at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles. But backstage, Barbara was having second thoughts.
She was scared to death, and I thought that she was kidding.
Only time ever have I seen Barbara the least bit nervous about anything.
And I was saying, oh, Barbara, good Lord, you've been doing this for 1,000 years. You can't be serious. The people are not going to love you anymore. That was her thing. She said, well, what if they don't want me anymore?
Never had I had stage fright, and it was horrible. Horrible because I would cry, I would shake, I would get sick at my stomach. It was just horrible.
But she was absolutely in tears. She was shaking, she was holding on to me, and it was really sad. But, as soon as the lights hit her, she was just fine.
Barbara's comeback concert was a triumphant success and managed to bring back the confidence that the accident had taken away from her. With renewed excitement, she took the show on tour, playing to sell-out crowds. And little by little, she began to recover from her head trauma.
I don't remember the crash, and I don't remember a lot just after. And there are even memories from the past that I've lost. And as people start to talk about them, I start to remember.
Barbara's life and career were finally back on track. But to complete her healing, there remained one thing that she wanted and needed to do.
I love performing. Always have, always will. But this could have been my last performance. My children, Matt and Jamie, and I were not safety belt users. But minutes before this crash, we put them on. Experts say that we would have been killed without them. I share this with you out of love. Please buckle up. You may never get another chance.
Coming up, Barbara makes the most difficult decision in her career. Next, when Intimate Portrait continues. Barbara's victorious comeback gave her a new outlook on life, and she began to explore vast new territories. In 1986, she fulfilled a lifelong dream by learning how to fly. In 1991, her autobiography, Get to the Heart, became a New York Times bestseller. And though music was still in her heart, Barbara began to focus her attention on a different career path.
I'm going out living. Do you hear me? Not dying. Living. I guess it just didn't occur to me to want to act. And I loved it so much. And I'd been in music, since age 11. I wasn't tired of it. I wasn't bored with it. But I felt so challenged by the acting and so excited about it, like a kid again. And I feel like I don't know so much at all. And it's neat to be learning.
You'll never know.
In a move that shocked the music community, Barbara announced in October of 1997 that after 38 years as a musician, she was quitting to pursue acting full-time. On October 23rd, she performed her final concert at the Grand Ole Opry. Barbara Mandrell and the Do-Rights, The Last Dance.
It was the end of everything she knew for such a long period of time.
Well, it was real emotional. I was real happy for her, but sad in a way too, because I knew that I wouldn't get to watch her perform anymore.
If you'd never seen her in concert before that night, you would be convinced that that's what she was born to do. She was born to get applause. She was born to speak and sing and entertain. It's just what God made her for.
Today, Barbara lives in Nashville with Ken and Nathan. Her son Matthew lives nearby and works as a chef. Following in her mom's footsteps, Jamie is an accomplished New York actress. Though no longer singing, Barbara has committed herself fully to her acting career and her beloved family.
I've been really blessed with a very loving, supportive, terrific family.
The best part of our life together probably is our children. They're the greatest crown that we have.
You will have never met, never, more polite, more respectful, more caring of others person, never. And for that, I'm very proud and very, very grateful. You know, I'm like other mommies. I love my children.
A lot of people ask me, aren't you proud of your 3 girls? And my answer is, of course, I am proud of them. But I am more proud of the persons that they are than I am what they have been able to accomplish.
Erlene has a new career as a race car driver, and continuing in the family tradition, Louise performs 8 shows a week at her own theater in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
My sisters and I are as close as you could possibly be, and it's almost so close that some people go, oh, brother, it's sickening, but we love each other.
I guess the best way to describe us as individuals is as colors. All colors are incredibly different, but when you put them together, they make a rainbow.
Louise and Erlene are my best friends. We get advice from each other on the phone. We share what's going on. We speak of our children. It's really neat having sisters and being close.
Family. It's what I'm about.
Marker. And action.
Kelly.
From her modest beginnings to her life as a superstar, Barbara Mandrell was born to perform.
Yes, they are my thing.
Well, of course they are. Let's cut.
And no matter which of her many talents she chooses to focus on, she will always have a place in the spotlight.
All these things I love, guess who's given them to me? God and the public. And I just love them so much for it. It's a good life.